The Dancing Princesses.
Read and presented by George Pitropogiannakis.
Once upon a time, there was a king who had 12 daughters.
What a lucky man am I.
Each night, the king kissed his daughters good night and tucked them all in bed.
Good night, Flora.
Good night, father.
Then
I will lock their door so no harm can come to them.
every morning, the king unlocked the door.
Good morning, girls.
Good morning, father.
One morning, the king noticed that all of his daughter's shoes were worn out. "Why didn't you tell me that you need new shoes?" The king took away all the worn-out shoes and brought new ones.
The Roman shoemaker made these in your sizes.
But the next morning, when the king unlocked the door,
How can this be? The new shoes are all danced to pieces.
the king said nothing. Every morning, he brought new shoes for his daughters. But the following morning, he always found the new shoes danced to pieces.
Where do my daughters dance when the door is locked all night? I must find out somehow.
The king sent a notice throughout the land.
Notice: any man who can discover where the 12 princesses dance every night can have one of them for his bride.
Young men came from far and wide to try to win a princess.
I hear that the youngest, Flora, is the prettiest of all.
Each man was given one day and one night to discover the secret of the dancing princesses.
Those who try and do not succeed will be banished.
One by one, the young men tried to find out where the princesses danced. But each time,
I am sorry, Your Highness. I fell asleep last night before your daughters went anywhere.
I am sorry too. You will have to be banished.
and so months passed. Then, one day, a young soldier named Felix met an old woman on the road near the castle.
Where are you going, soldier?
I am going to the castle. I would like to discover where the king's daughters dance and win a princess for my bride.
Nothing could be easier. I will tell you how to do it. You will be put in a room to watch the princesses all night. At that time, the princesses will bring you a goblet of milk. Don't drink the milk, spit it out. Then pretend to fall asleep. When the princesses think you are asleep, they will go dancing. Follow them, and you will discover their secret.
But they will see me.
Here is a magic cloak I just finished weaving. Wear it, and you will be invisible.
Let me see if it fits. How does it look?
Perfect. It is just the right size.
Then
I will do all you told me. Thank you, good woman, for your help.
You are welcome. Good luck, young man.
At the castle, the soldier was taken before the king.
My name is Felix. I am only a poor soldier. I would like to try my luck at finding out where your daughters dance every night.
You are welcome to try, but remember, if you fail, you will be banished.
Felix was dressed in royal garments. Then
Girls, this is Felix. He is our guest for today.
How handsome he is.
He is the nicest one so far.
when it was time to go to bed,
This is where you will sleep. Watch them carefully now.
then the king tucked all the princesses in bed.
Good night, girls.
Good night, Father.
And he locked them into their room. As soon as the king was gone,
Flora, put the sleeping powder in the milk and take it to Felix.
a few moments later,
Felix, are you asleep yet?
No, princess.
I have brought you some nice fresh milk.
Thank you, princess.
but as Flora walked away, then Felix pretended to fall asleep. In a little while,
I think I hear him snoring.
I will make sure he is asleep. He certainly is asleep. How handsome he is. It is a pity he will have to be banished.
Flora returned to her sisters.
He is fast asleep.
Good! Now we can go dancing at last.
They jumped out of bed and began to dress.
Has anyone seen my green ribbon?
Somebody has taken my pretty pink rose.
Soon they were all ready to go.
Flora, take one more look to be sure that Felix is asleep.
Felix pretended to be snoring loudly.
It is a pity that such a handsome young man snores. Except for that, he seems perfect.
Again, Flora reported that Felix was fast asleep. Then
Knock on the magic bed, Hilda, and let us be off. My feet are impatient to be dancing.
Hilda knocked on the bed, and it began to sink into the ground. Down. Down. Down it went until as Felix watched, the 12 princesses went down the stairway. Then Felix put on the cloak that made him invisible, and he hurried after them. On the way down, Felix accidentally stepped on Flora's gown.
Someone stepped on my dress.
Don't be silly. There is no one behind you.
You must have caught it on a nail.
A moment later,
Wait! I dropped my handkerchief.
but Felix quickly picked it up and gave it back to her.
What are you saying? Your handkerchief is in your hand. How odd. It flew back by itself.
At the bottom of the stairway, there was a row of trees with silver leaves.
I must take one of these leaves to prove I have been here.
But as he broke it off,
What was that? I heard someone break a twig.
How can that be? There is no one here but us.
the next lane, they came to head trees with leaves of gold.
I must take one of these leaves too.
But again, a twig snapped when he broke off the leaf.
What was that? I heard someone break another twig.
Flora, you are imagining things again.
The next lane, they came to head trees with leaves of diamond.
I certainly must take one of these.
But as before, a twig snapped when he broke off the leaf.
A twig snapped again. There must be someone here.
Really, Flora, you are being very silly tonight. Come on, you will make us all late for the dance.
At the end of the lane, they came to a beautiful lake.
Ah, the boats are waiting.
In every boat sat a handsome prince.
Good evening, Albert.
Good evening, William.
Good evening, Morris.
Good evening, Eladar.
Good evening, Alex.
Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Oscar.
Good evening, Robert.
Good evening, Stanley.
Good evening, Armand. Good evening, Conrad.
Good evening, Rudolph.
Each princess climbed into a different boat. Felix climbed in after Flora. Be careful, Flora, you nearly upset the boat. As they started across the lake,
Row faster. We are falling behind the others.
I can't. The boat seems unusually heavy tonight.
on the other side of the lake, they came to a splendid castle. As soon as they entered the castle, the princesses began to dance.
I think I will do some dancing too. What fun!
Ouch! You're stepping on my toe.
You must be mistaken. I never step on anyone's toes but my own.
As the hours passed, the princesses became thirsty from so much dancing.
Let us stop and have some lemonade.
But,
These goblets are all empty.
But, miss, I just finished filling them. All night long the princesses danced.
Finally,
My shoes are all worn out.
Mine too.
They returned to the boats, and the princes rowed them back across the lake. When they reached the shore,
Good night, Albert.
Good night, William.
Good night, Morris.
Good night, Aladar.
Good night, Alex.
Good night, Michael.
Good night, Oscar. Good night, Robert.
Good night, Stanley.
Good night, Armand.
Good night, Conrad.
Good night, Rudolph.
Felix ran ahead to the room. When the princesses entered,
Flora, see if Felix is still asleep.
a moment later,
I wish I might dance with him sometime.
then Flora went back to her sisters.
He has not stirred since we left.
The princesses kicked off their worn-out shoes, put away their fancy dresses, and went to bed. The next morning,
Well, young man, have you discovered where my daughters dance all night?
Yes, your majesty. They dance in an underground castle with 12 princes. I have been there with them. This will prove it.
A silver leaf, a gold leaf, a diamond leaf. How amazing!
"Daughters, is this young man telling the truth?"
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
"Then you have earned your reward. Choose your bride. The wedding will be tonight."
Flora, may I be your dancing partner for the rest of your life?
Well, yes.
So that night there was a splendid wedding. And everyone danced happily ever after. The end. The Dancing Princesses.
Read and presented by George Pitropogiannakis.